Um, you might be wondering why I'm dressed up a little bit today. It's a special occasion, and that special occasion is that we have an original classic DevLake meetup. Instead of meeting with these silly people who we interview, we're meeting with the most important people in the world, which is our contributors and our community members. So today we're going to be focused on covering the latest updates in the DevLake community. We're going to go through a really great overview of the latest release. I can't believe I almost called it a retro. It's how fast we're moving, where we'll do a retro on the release that came out like last week, basically. And then we'll also be giving a sneak preview this today for what's coming next in the next release. In my opinion, it's one of the biggest and most significant updates we've made, perhaps since the launch, and Hezheng will be telling you guys all about that. So without any further discussion, let me pull up our slides today and let's jump into our discussion. Hezheng, thanks as always for joining us.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Maxim.
I'm briefly dealing with the problem of having 17 million different windows open on my computer. So here we go. All right. Well, now all of that fun introduction is behind us. We'll jump into our key agenda. We have a lot to cover today, some really good substantive material that we're excited to go through. So what are we going to do? Well, I'm going to go through a quick welcome of some of our new community members, or at least the highlighted members that I wanted to kind of give special shout outs to, as well as some upcoming things that are quite interesting that we're up to from an events and conferences perspective. I also kind of review some recent kind of successes that we've had as a community, give us all kind of a virtual fist bump. After that, I'm going to hand the microphone over to my wonderful colleague, Hezheng, and Hezheng is going to provide an introduction and some notes, release notes, and a bit of discussion on our most current release, 0.13, which hopefully many of you guys have started to dig around in and are finding exciting. Then we're going to jump into what's coming next with 0.14, a really exciting release that's going to unleash so much new capability for DevLake that I'm really excited for. And then last and certainly not least, we're going to open up the floor for as much time as we have really to answer any questions or have any discussions that you, our community members, want to go through. So friendly reminder, drop them in the chat. As I mentioned, if you want to drop them in Slack, just DM them to our developer evangelist, Joshua. Joshua Padoku is in there. He'll field the questions and send them over to make sure that we get to them today. So I wanted to highlight a couple of important members. Obviously, each and every one of you are very important. So this is not to exclude anyone. It's more to shine a light on some really exciting or interesting people, or people that have done some really kind of impactful work with DevLake in the recent weeks. So we have Bill, who's in France, really interesting guy in the DevOps space. Him and I have been having some basic conversations, and I'm looking forward to chatting with him more. Nico is amazing, super active, based in Argentina, as well as being a Formula One fan, which I am too, with that awesome Aston Martin hat. Good taste in cars. Nico is also working on a plugin, which is Epic, on a really cool issue tracking tool called Linear that we're excited to take a closer look at some point. And Nico is also giving us some awesome feedback as a DevLake power user. So thanks so much, Nico. We have kind of a dual package deal here with Hennet and Pulanakanan, both of whom are awesome, talented, super smart college students in India, really enthusiastic new members of our community. Hopefully, fingers crossed, they'll be in my next cohort of junior developer evangelists. They've been asking questions, they've been welcoming community members, they've been sending us some really cool ideas. You guys are the embodiment of, in my opinion, the perfect community members. You're friendly, you're fun, you're answering questions, you're giving suggestions on how to improve the product, and we love to see that. We also have Gavin Henry in Scotland. Gavin is just a super, super sharp CTO and engineering leader, really friendly. Gavin, I owe you a follow-up, and we definitely want to collaborate on some more content together, as well as to help your open source project and you help ours. So thanks as always for being part of us. And then last but not least, we have Derek. Derek Hansen, he's based here in California with Hezheng and I. He's a new user, really smart guy, working to potentially build a plugin in the future. We'll see. But these are just a few members. We're obviously now over 115, which is really exciting. But these are people I just wanted to give kind of an extra bit of fist bump to on today's occasion. So thank you guys. Thanks everyone on this slide. And of course, thank you everyone listening to today, as well as on the recording, and for being part of our community. So I'll give a quick run through of our good old dashboard, because we always like to take at least a minute to go through what's happening with DevLake, using DevLake. I'm not going to take any more than 1 minute here, but I do always like to take a look at this and share it with you guys. This link is of course available for you guys to take a look at whenever you want. Some cool highlights here. We've got some pretty solid ratio of new issues being created by the community members. I think we'll get this number up even more. I'm always thinking about this as a good health barometer for our project. The more work that's being done in a distributed way, the better off we are, which is always great to see. Something I really want to kind of give credit to for everybody, because in some cases, this is the hard work that you guys have been doing, not just us on the internal team. Our new issue response time is pretty damn fast. We're at under 9 hours, which for me, being someone that's looking at data for many other projects, this puts us for sure in some of the very fastest that are out there in terms of being responsive, making sure we're addressing questions and things that people are putting in the GitHub. So thank you to every single person that has played a role in getting this number to where it's at. So whenever you want to take a look, I'll drop this link in the chat. If you have any ideas on things that we should be tracking to see how the project's doing, definitely let me know, and we'll be sure to add it. Or you can even create the query yourself, create the panel. We'll be sure to reward you, and then we'll incorporate it into it that way. So let's jump back into our slides. All right. So some community highlights that I wanted to go through, because I think it's important, and ultimately lots of this is for us, it's team efforts, and it's with the community that we're making all of this progress. So most importantly, the DevLake family, we're now 115 strong, which I think is just so incredible. We started the year, I don't know with how many, but we've been growing by nearly one person every single day recently. But I think most importantly, which I really want to acknowledge, we've all been working together in this great collaborative way. Every time I go in Slack, there's new questions, there's new ideas, there's all of our community members. Shout out to our JDEs, Shabam, Sanskar, Pranshu, Basit, Prasurja, Joshua. All of you guys are just doing an incredible job of keeping everyone engaged, answering questions. Nico has been doing a great job diving in. So just some really powerful efforts here. So it's not just this big number that's exciting to me. It's how engaged everybody is, and I'm so grateful for all of you being part of that. Recently, we've also been on a really great streak with our interviews. We're going to keep them up. And if there's anyone you think that we should chat with, definitely send me some recommendations. If you have any introductions, those are always super valuable too. Our goal is to keep these interviews coming. Hopefully they're useful. Whenever you have feedback, let me know, because we want to make them better. We want to make them more useful for you guys. That's always the goal. We've had some great blogs that have come out recently, and importantly, we've had a ton of visibility, nearly 110,000 views on dev.to for just these two blogs. The DevLake family is loud, we're proud, and people are seeing us all around the world, and that's a really exciting feeling too. On our next open source huddle. As you know, we do this every other week, so I will not be seeing you next week, but I will be seeing you the week after, where we'll be interviewing a world-renowned developer experience expert, Cassidy Williams. She has nearly 200,000 followers on Twitter, and really has some incredible thoughts on what it means to be a great developer evangelist, to drive great developer experience. You won't want to miss that conversation, and you'll of course find that in the Slack as soon as we release all of the details. But it will be at 7:30 a.m. Pacific time, same time as today, every other week. So basically 2 Thursdays from now. Some quick notes if you want to join us and really get involved. We have 4 conferences coming up that are really kind of high priorities for us. First up, we've got GitCon, which is happening in San Francisco, but it's also virtual. Hezheng is going to be speaking there, going through a really awesome and practical presentation, as well as making our DORA support announcement, which you guys will be among the very first to learn about today, and will be part of today's discussion. We'll be attending GitHub Universe. Sadly, our talks did not get selected, but that doesn't change how enthusiastic we are about the event itself. Most likely, Hezheng, Roland, and myself will all be there in person. Possibly more of our team, we'll figure it out. But if you're there or want to attend and meet up, definitely let us know. We'd love to see you there. Joshua in India, our developer evangelist, is crushing it over on the events side in India. Next up, we've got Open Source India Summit, where DevLake is a community partner, and we'll be doing some cool engagements there. So definitely follow along, and if you're in India and can attend in person, definitely let us know, and we'll see how we can collaborate with you. And then last but not least, we have Hacktoberfest, a global virtual event that Joshua is leading the charge on. We'll be hosting events for both DevLake and DevStream to really engage the global open source community, and we can't wait to have you guys be a part of that too. Whew. So I know I said a lot there. I'm trying to get through nice and quick to leave time for some of the most important content, which is my good friend and colleague, Hezheng, who I'll now pass the mic to. Hezheng's going to go through some updates here on the latest on our current release. Then he's going to dive into the next release and perhaps add some comments on things that you can look towards for making contributions, and of course, kind of what you can expect as far as getting your feet wet and diving into the lake. So thanks, Hezheng.
Thanks, Maxim. And I'm really excited to talk about our new release 0.14 and also preview the next release 0.14 with our community members. So as you probably know, DevLake right now is released every month. So at the end of every month, we'll code freeze, go through the Apache incubator's release voting process, and then make the official release on GitHub. So we just released 0.13 this week. So a fresh new release waiting for you to dig deeper into. I'm excited to talk about the major updates in that release. So first of all, we made updates to the CI/CD domain layer data schema to support upcoming DORA metrics. The challenge here is that different CI/CD tools, they have very different concepts and different schema. So we need to design our domain layer schema to be flexible enough to accommodate different tools. Secondly, we have added GraphQL support for the GitHub data collection process, and this improves data collection speed significantly. And by significantly, I mean 10 times or 20 times faster than the original RESTful API approach. However, this is not turned on by default because we want to test this a bit more in the coming month and then make it default in 0.14. So I'm really looking forward to that, so that we no longer need multiple tokens to collect a large repository. Thirdly, we can now collect the detailed info of JIRA Epics to which JIRA issues belong. That's pretty self-explanatory. And number 4, for config UI, we now support blueprint editing, so enabling more precise customization. Before, if you create a blueprint and you want to change some transformation rules or the setting, you have to create a new one. But now it's much more easier as you can edit existing blueprint. Number 5, for config UI as well, so users can now download logs of blueprint runs to debug when error occurs. So this makes it much easier for users to share the logs of failed blueprint runs with our DevLake developers, so that DevLake developers can take a look at the logs and then pinpoint where the issue is, and then fix the bug for our users. Number 6, this is a dashboard, a new dashboard. We have added the community experience dashboard to our dashboard hub. So this community experience dashboard have metrics, the measuring, how healthy a community is in terms of, responsiveness and friendliness to new contributors and users. Number 7, so we have added the Swagger documentation for all plugin APIs. And so now, once you install DevLake, there will be a Swagger instance up and running, and you can check it out to see what are the APIs that we provide and what are the parameters that we accept. So it makes it much more easier for you to work on integration with DevLake. Lastly, we are always, fixing bugs and improving our documentation. And documentation is really the key for our users to use DevLake smoothly. So we are always have an emphasis on that. So if you notice anything that's outdated, let us know, and we are happy to update it. Yeah, so that's the updates, major updates for 0.13, and onwards to preview for 0.14. So for 0.14, this is really a spoiler because it will be out. We'll code freeze in, I think, 2 weeks. And then the voting process will take another 1 to 1.5 weeks. So we'll see this probably in 3.5 weeks. But I'm really excited to preview this with you guys because there's a really exciting feature that many of you have been requesting for a long time, which is DevLake support for DORA metrics. So DORA metrics are a set of metrics that are really popular that measure the stability and the velocity of software delivery process. I know there are already many users using DevLake to implement DORA metrics by themselves, but with 0.14 support, including our custom webhooks for defining incidents and deployments, and also letting you pulling data from data sources and define and configure your deployments information, this will make it much more easier for developers to define, to support DORA metrics using DevLake. So I'm excited to launch the 0.14 in a few weeks and share it in more details with you guys. That's my update. Handing the mic back to Maxim.
Awesome, awesome. And Hezheng, if you could pull up, I know we have some basic screenshots of what this is going to look like a little bit that we were including in your presentation yesterday. If you can maybe pull one of those up. Shabam, one of our JDEs and one of our power users in the community, asked us if he can see what it looks like. So perhaps you can pull one of those up. So being nice and efficient, guys, that is kind of our key agenda today here. There you go. There's the beautiful DORA metrics. So some things to point out, guys. Hezheng and I were really kind of going through this in detail here. For those of you that are maybe not so familiar with DORA, you can really think about it, as being split into 2 key categories, right? It's kind of this speed, velocity, throughput kind of category, where you can see things like number of deployments per month and change failure rate per month. And then you've, lead time changes per month. And then you've got things like stability, stability and reliability metrics in the case of change failure rate and the mean time to restore services per month. So maybe these don't seem like super exciting and sexy, right? And maybe they're not, right? But they're super, super practical. This is a framework that has really kind of caught the attention of many of the leading tech companies. We agree with it. We think it's a good kind of easy, practical way to focus on the key bottlenecks and some of the key things that are maybe most important to end users as well, right? Which is how stable is your product? And when it does go wrong, when something does fail, how quickly are your team or your community working to solve that challenge? So what we've done, it's quite a challenge to track and properly create these metrics. And that's because they, of course, usually live in so many different places, so many different tools, so many different formats. And that's a challenge that we've been excited to solve, of course, with DevLake for all kinds of things. But I think DevLake is uniquely powerful to solve this kind of challenge where you've got data in different formats, different tools, different places. Now it's all in one place. Now you can make it something that's easy to digest. So this support for DORA is really going to be a game changer. People are really excited about it. And we're, of course, also using some benchmarks, which you can see on the top, which I think is really quite special and very cool, where we're providing the insight through DevLake, whether you're kind of above average or whether you're below average, giving you some sense of where you are on this continuum, right? To benchmark where you have opportunities for improvement, or maybe importantly, where you have opportunities to really celebrate and give everyone on your team a pat on the back, which I always think is just as important. So this is a really, really cool update. We'll be officially revealing the support for DORA and everything that comes with it at GitCon. GitCon is happening in October, where Hezheng will be giving a talk, going through a kind of step-by-step guide on how to set up DORA metrics and implement them using DevLake. That will be a great talk. You won't want to miss it. We'll, of course, be sharing the recording with all of you in the community. But I always like to copy Neil Armstrong, the famous astronaut. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Same for us, right? This might be one small step for metrics, but one giant leap for DevLake, where this is a great evolution. And I expect it's really going to give us some exciting growth and exciting kind of chatter and conversation in the social sphere as we release this. It's something few products and tools really have figured out how to support properly, and we're going to be one of the first, which I'm so proud of. So I'll open up the floor now for Q&A. So we have a question here, Hezheng, from Metb. I don't know what your proper name is, but hopefully I'll see you in the Slack too. But Metb asks us about the community experience dashboard. How do you measure that exactly? Well, I think that's a great question. Hezheng, if you're up for pulling that dashboard up, I'll give you a minute. And while Hezheng pulls that up, I can talk a little bit to that. So the simple answer to that is it's Bill. It's Bill. Good to see you, Bill. So Bill, it's a good question where it's of course going to depend on how you're defining it, right? We're not claiming any correct way to do this, but we've put a lot of thought into this, and we've taken it from a more open source perspective, of course. And we really wanted to kind of think about what's going to matter to a new contributor that's engaging with a new repo, for instance. So we thought about things where, yeah, if you're creating a new issue and no one's responding to it quickly, or it's getting closed without proper resolution, or PRs are just sitting in the backlog forever, never getting reviewed, never getting merged, we consider things like that to be examples of a bad developer experience, right? So we've taken the perspective that if you're focused on these things, that you're going to be driving a better developer experience, at least in terms of having things, be efficient, having new contributions be respected and be acknowledged. So that's what we focused on here. So you'll see, for example, and for any of you that are getting DevLake set up, I believe this template dashboard is available to all of you. We're tracking all of these things. Now, there's a few cool customization parameters that you can apply to this, of course. In this case, we've established a SLA, which for those of you that don't know that term, service level agreement, really just a fancy way of saying, what's our goal? What are we trying to commit to as an organization? So in this case, when we're computing things like metrics, how effectively are we achieving that metric within an SLA? In this case, for things like PR resolution time, we want to make sure that we're getting that resolution inside 3 days and then we're computing the percentage of PRs that are actually within that SLA. You can see here is 96%, and you can see here, of course, we've defined the issue response SLA in hours. They're in 2 days, so you can see that the 93% mark is being achieved here, and as you can see here, we're showing that in red because we really want to make sure we're eclipsing 95% at least there. Ideally, we'd be at 100, of course, making sure we're being really, really responsive 100% of the time. But definitely would love your thoughts for sure on if there's anything you would like to see or any ideas you have. I think in the future, something that I personally have as my own vision for community experience, I'd certainly love to build some plugins for Slack. I'd love to be able to see if we can figure out data that relates to things like conversation, right? How active is our Slack community? Are people answering detailed questions in there? Are people being welcoming? Maybe in the future, there's some clever opportunity for sentiment analysis. I'm definitely getting very futuristic there. Those are not things on our roadmap before I give Hezheng a heart attack. But all of that is to say, I think there's so many clever ways that you could give the community experience and developer experience dashboards. And I think, we're going to always look to evolve this and would love the community's support and ideas on how we can continue to improve this. But yeah, Bill, thanks for the question. And this is for me one of my favorite dashboards, and I think it's certainly a favorite of many of our seed users, who are enthusiastically using this. We have the team at Stripe who are using this dashboard. Stripe being one of the more famous fintech companies, and then we have a small mom and pop business called Goldman Sachs who are also using this dashboard. So we've got some good companies that are really using this to better understand the health and strength of their open source communities. Awesome. And thanks again for joining, Bill, and thanks for being part of our community. Well, I will close the Zoom room here. Hezheng, thank you as always for joining me early in the day. And thanks for being an awesome colleague and co-host. Joshua, thank you for diving in there in the chat, being a great member and leader of our community and driving everything in the Q&A and chat. Always appreciate you, my friend. So that's it for today. We'll look forward to seeing you guys. Hopefully you can join tomorrow for the Twitch stream. We'll share those details. Join us next Thursday for the Twitter Spaces. We'll be promoting that. Then the Thursday after that, we'll see you on another Zoom where I'll be interviewing Cassidy, and we'll dive in and do some more updates and discussion with you guys. So until then, thanks, DevLake fam.
Thank you, Maxim. Take care, everyone.